The night shimmered with soft lights spilling from chandeliers as the restaurant pulsed with quiet luxury and whispered voices of those who had money, power, or secrets to trade. Emily moved between tables, her apron crisp, her steps light her face. Calm, though. Her heart raced beneath her uniform. She had seen 1,000 dinners like this, but something about the man at table 14 felt different, the way his eyes scanned the room with cool precision, the way the others leaned too close when they spoke, the way the air around them seemed to tighten every time she passed by. There was tension hidden under the laughter, a silence beneath the words, and Emily could feel it clawing at the edges of her mind, waiting to reveal itself. She had not recognized him at first, but the moment she brought the bottle of wine, she saw his face reflected in the glass and nearly dropped it. Richard Hale, the CEO, whose name filled headlines, a man whose signature could shift fortunes overnight now, sitting in her section as if he were any other customer, but he was not like the rest, and neither were the men beside him. They smiled too much, and their smiles never reached their eyes. Something about them made her skin prickle as though a storm was about to break, and she could already hear the thunder rolling somewhere far away. When she poured the wine, the tall one with the silver cufflinks leaned forward and said softly, "Let me pour for our guest." And though his tone was friendly, his hand trembled just enough for her to notice a clear drop slid from his thumb into the deep red swirl of Richard's glass. It was so small, so fast that no one else saw it, but Emily did, and her breath caught in her chest as she set the bottle down and stepped back. The drop vanished into the liquid like it had never been there at all, but her mind screamed danger, danger, and her fingers clenched around the edge of her tray as if to hold herself steady against what she had just seen. She could not speak, not hear, not in front of them. Her manager was across the room, distracted with another table. Her only chance was to act quietly, quickly, before it was too late. Her hands shook as she reached for her order pad, scribbling words that might save a life, words she hoped he would believe. Though she was a stranger, she folded the note tight and slipped it beneath his napkin when she returned to refill the bread basket. Every motion deliberate, every breath silent, every step measured as if the floor might break beneath her. If she moved too fast, she prayed he would see it before he drank. When she turned away, she caught a glimpse of him unfolding the napkin, the faintest flicker of confusion crossing his face. His gaze darted up, meeting hers across the table, and in that single moment, a wordless understanding passed between them. She wanted to look away but couldn't, because something in his eyes told her he had read it, and now everything depended on what he would do. Next, he lifted the glass slowly, the red liquid catching the light, and Emily's heart stopped. She almost whispered no, but the sound froze in her throat. The men at the table kept talking, pretending to laugh, though their laughter sounded forced, brittle like glass ready to shatter. He held the glass just below his lips, then set it down, his expression calm, unreadable. Then he stood slowly, the chair scraping against the floor with a sound that sliced through the room. He smiled faintly at the two men and said something Emily could not hear, though the words made them both freeze. She felt the air change, the hum of the restaurant dim for a second, as if everyone was waiting for something none of them could name. Then he reached for his wallet, slipped a bill onto the table, and turned toward the exit. But as he passed Emily, he did not just walk by, he stopped, looked at her with an intensity that sent a chill down her spine, and reached out. Taking her hand gently, his voice barely above a whisper, he said 4 words that made her pulse thunder in her ears, and in that instant she knew everything she had done might not be enough, and everything she feared might only be beginning. The moment his hand touched hers, time seemed to stop. The lights dimmed. The sound of clinking glasses faded until there was only the thudding of her heartbeat echoing in her ears. His grip was firm but not harsh, his eyes steady as he said quietly, "Walk with me." And though every instinct told Her to stay away from whatever storm he carried inside, she found herself nodding and following him toward the tall glass doors that led out into the cold November night. The city beyond shimmered with neon and headlights and distant sirens that wailed like ghosts in the fog, and she could feel something building just beyond her understanding, a truth clawing to get out. Outside, the wind bit through her uniform. Her hands trembled as he turned to face her. His calm had cracked, and beneath it, there was something raw, a spark of fear or maybe fury. He asked her, "What did you see?" And his voice, though soft, carried a weight that made her throat tighten. She told him everything about the wine, the shimmer, the man with the cufflinks, how it felt like poison, though she could not prove it. He listened without blinking, his jaw tight, his eyes flicking once toward the window where the two executives still sat pretending to talk, though their shoulders were stiff and their smiles gone thin as wire. He pulled a phone from his pocket, pressed one button, and spoke in a low tone that carried authority that felt dangerous. She caught only fragments, words like security evidence and extraction. Then he turned back to her and said, "Do not go." Back inside, not yet, and before she could ask why two men in dark coats appeared from a black sedan at the curb, they moved with the precision of soldiers. One of them entered the restaurant. The other remained outside his gaze, sweeping the street. And Emily realized she had stepped into something far beyond the world of menus and table numbers, something sharp and shadowed, and she could not step back. Now Richard Hale watched the door, his expression unreadable, the minutes stretched like hours, until the man returned carrying the glass in a sealed plastic case. His voice low as he said, "Confirmed, sir," and that single word sent a chill through her veins. Richard exhaled slowly, a sound more like relief than surprise. Then he looked at her, again with that same piercing focus that made her feel seen and small. At once he said, "You saved me tonight, but there is more you need to know," and she wanted to ask what he meant. But before she could, the restaurant lights flickered inside, and one of the executives stood quickly, his face pale as he glanced toward the window like a trapped animal. Police cars arrived faster than she could blink, blue lights painting the walls of the restaurant in trembling color. Officers poured in there, voices sharp and commanding, and through the chaos, she saw the tall man with the cufflinks being led out in handcuffs, his calm gone, his expression broken. He shouted something that was swallowed by the wind, and Emily realized it was over, or at least that was what she wanted to believe, because the fear in Richard's eyes told her otherwise, and when he finally spoke again, his words felt heavier than the night itself. He told her the man worked for a rival company, a man who stood to gain millions. If Richard were removed or ruined, the poison was meant to knock him out long enough for signatures to be forged and deals to be sealed. She listened, unable to breathe, as the truth unfolded like a nightmare she had stumbled into. He thanked her again, said her name like it was something sacred, and promised to make sure she would never have to worry again. But there was something behind his voice, something unspoken that made her shiver. He said, "They will come looking for answers, and not everyone will want the truth." Days passed, but the memory refused to fade. The newspapers called it an attempted poisoning and praised the unknown waitress who saved the CEO's life, but the recognition brought no peace. Strangers asked questions. Reporters waited outside her apartment. Her phone buzzed with unknown numbers until she stopped answering entirely. She wanted to believe it was over, but every time she turned a corner, she felt eyes on her as if the night had not truly ended, and somewhere beneath the headlines, something darker still moved unseen. Then one evening a letter arrived. No return address, no name. Only a single line written in precise handwriting that she recognized instantly. It said, "Stay alert. It is not over yet." And though there was no signature, she knew it came from him. The man she had saved. The man whose world had touched hers and changed it forever. She folded the letter with shaking hands and looked out her window at the city lights that flickered, like warning signs against the dark, because deep down she understood that the story had only just begun, and what waited ahead was something she could neither escape nor ignore.